Imagine this, a mild to moderate eczema treatment that helps clear
Okay, we're going live right now. Hello, welcome to another edition of the Willy Bragg Show. I am a little bit late because I'm all thumbs with Rumble, and well, it didn't go through, so what I'll have to do, I'm 2 videos behind on Rumble. It would just have to be restreamed another time. I'm going to get a hang of it, but I am streaming on Rumble these days. One day I'm going to get the hang of it, and I'm going to be like, natural at everything. We have Dr. Catherine Anne-McCloskey back again on our show. And introduce yourself for new people to our audience.
Thanks for having me, Willie. My name is Catherine Anne-McCloskey, and I hold a PhD in comparative political economy from Boston College and St. Mary's College, jointly bestowed. I've been a peace activist all of my life. I had the great adventure of growing up during the Vietnam War. And I realized that war truly was a racket. These days, I'm retired. I write. My columns appear at Substack at the This is like Deja Vu all over again newsletter. And I love coming on your show and talk things over.
Yeah, I love having you back here, and because you always provide perspective, and I swear to God, you probably know more people that, I mean, it's amazing how many people you met in your life and how many stories you have to share. You could really write a book about about your experience.
I really need to.
I think you should. I think that would have a lot of people on the left very interested in what you have to say. I think it would get.
They're passionately disinterested in what I've had to say lately. They don't like my take on the Ukraine war.
Well, it depends who you talk to. If you talk to the shit libs out there, some of them are coming around, I think. I think some of them are coming around. Once that the media are reluctantly realizing that they're Nazis, that the U.S. is giving money to indirectly, I guess you could say, they're going to be like, oh, holy cow, we really giving money to Nazis? So there is that. Also, I think there is still an anti-war contingent, but I think that the Democratic Party has exercised, unfortunately, democratic centralism on the rank and file elected officials of the party, where an anti-war voice is a no-no. And basically, and activists are kind of almost gagged, it seems like. So, and if you dare speak up against this war, you're a right winger. You're a Putin puppet. You're all these things and then if you look at the Ukraine situation and you compare the government of Ukraine to Russia, this is not saying I favor Russia over Ukraine, but Ukraine comparatively to Russia is actually more right-wing than Russia itself.
Far more right-wing, and it's not that the United States stumbled into supporting Nazis. The United States began supporting the Nazi movement in the Ukraine in 1945. Stefan Bandera was on the OSS, the group that preceded the CIA's payroll from 1945 on, until he went on the payroll of the government of West Germany as a spy. And finally, the KGB closed his account in 1953. But for that 8 years, he was an American asset, as was Klaus Barbie, the Butcher of Lyon, and a great many other Nazis. The United States had first the rat lines, a way for the Nazis to escape to Latin America. Operation of the OSS, MI6, and the Roman Catholic Church. Then it was Operation Paperclip, where the United States offered nice cushy jobs to Nazi scientists so they would come and work for the United States. And then Operation Bloodstone, which most people don't know about. In the 50s, the CIA and the FBI went out and recruited former Nazis to act as spies against the Soviets. The United States has been supporting the Nazi movement in this country since it fell in Germany. And that's just terrifying to me.
Yeah, it is. And I had to explain this to people over and over again. I have to explain this to people. And it's not, I mean, and yeah, it's great that you're hearing a lot of conservatives being, critical of this war, but not all of them. There's still some of them are on that Bush Cheney neocon kick. We saw Nikki Haley the other night. I don't care for what's his name, Vivek Ramaswamy, who is to me is he's basically a less shitty Dinesh D'Souza meets the bullshit artist nature of Pete Buttigieg. He's like Pete Buttigieg if Pete Buttigieg was a Republican with slightly less shitty politics than Dinesh D'Souza. Now he's a con artist, but he was right on the issue of Russia-Ukraine. But he had a hawkish attitude toward Mexico. So, okay, you're right on Ukraine, Russia, but if you want to start a war with China over Taiwan, or you want to go and invade Mexico, that's still a hawkish foreign policy. So some of these folks, they may be correct on Russia, Ukraine, but they're not correct on trying to invade the Mexican border, which is they think they have a refugee crisis right now, and they think they have a quote unquote immigration problem, which I don't think there's an immigration problem. But if they really want to, keep order at the border, well, they need to re-examine how they do foreign policy in Latin America for starters, and stop interrupting those countries down there. And if they go invade Mexico, I mean, expect several million more, quote unquote, migrants to come into this country.
Yeah, I'm just starting a book on the coups that the United States has engendered since 1945. And according to the woman who wrote it, whose name is escaping me at this moment, there have been 70 coups, 64 of them covert. And those coups include Paraguay, Guatemala, Brazil, Argentina, Chile, etc. Well, if you wreck someone's economy, their social order, etc., they're going to flee. And the only place to flee is to the United States. But I agree with you.
Yeah. And for some reason, you can't convince them of that. I remember when the Syrian refugees, there was that issue with the Syrian refugees several years ago. And it was like they were trying to have it both ways. They were like, we want to keep them out of this country, but we'll bomb them. Just like, okay, you want to keep the Syrians out of this country. Well, the best way is not to bomb the hell out of them. And I even try appealing to some of the conservatives out there. I'd be like, you realize some of those people who are coming into this country, some of them are actually even Christian too. I don't care. And these are the people who are like evangelicals that are just, who have a neocon foreign policy. So we know where their Christian generosity is. Yeah,
we could try letting the Syrians keep some of their own oil.
Yep. Very true. And if you go in and tell the people the truth about Syria, you're called an Assad apologist and all of that. And I'm no fan of Assad, but I damn well realize as Assad goes, what's going to take over, fill in that void, is going to be 1,000 times worse.
Indeed. The groups that the United States are backing are purely terroristic.
When
Islamic, rather.
When Trump was president and John Bolton was his NSA with national security advisor, he basically openly admitted that the U.S. should back Al Qaeda to topple Assad. I'm like, are you mad?
Yeah, backing Al Qaeda worked out so well.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, anyway, that's what's been going on, and it's just been a clusterfuck of a foreign policy. And
yeah.
Yes.
And we've now spent $119 billion on the war in the Ukraine, and the Ukrainian counteroffensive, took a few yards of land in one spot.
Yeah,
the Ukrainians have died without even reaching the outer perimeter of the first of 3 Russian lines of defense. 40,000 men.
Yeah, it's just been pure insanity. What's been going on and everything, and all of that. I just
casualties on a level with the Battle of the Somme.
I had a little noise in the background. Can you repeat that again?
Sure. I said there are casualties on the level of the Battle of the Somme.
Yeah,
casualties in the thousands.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? I saw the conversation on Fox News years ago. Sean Hannity and Pat Buchanan. Lord knows, I obviously don't like Sean Hannity, and there's a lot of things I don't like about Pat Buchanan. But it was really weird watching that interview to hear Pat Buchanan sound like a voice of reason, because he was like, let Russia, let Syria, and let Iran handle this, this crisis over there. Let them handle it. Don't sacrifice an American soldier. And Sean Hannity took great offense to that. I'm like, no, actually, he makes sense. And honestly, U.S. should realize if the ISIS problem that doesn't exist anymore or has been downplayed is because Iran, Syria, and Russia have taken care of that problem, because they don't particularly care for the ideology either, including Iran, which a lot of Americans think that Middle East, they're all Muslim, they all think the same. No, they don't all think the same. Everybody's got a different ideological bent, and they're, some movements are more secular than others. Strangely enough, Iran is, weirdly enough, seems to be on the side of secularism a little more than the Sunni areas of the Middle East. Have you noticed that?
Yes, that's true, and it's interesting to see China negotiate peace between Saudi Arabia and Iran.
I think it's a good thing. I think
peace is always a good thing.
Yeah. And, just one of the worst things Trump did was to pull the U.S. out of the peace treaty with Iran. And I know why he did it. He knew damn well that treaty was working. But he did it to appease a secular neocon evangelical right-wing base that have an overlapping foreign policy, and the neocons, the secular neocons, they have their strategic interests or whatever, and the fundamentalist Christians, I don't want to sound like I'm bashing Christians, but have this, they want Israel and Iran, let's face it, to toss nukes at each other to usher in what they think is prophecy based on a flawed reading from a Scofield Bible. It's what my understanding is. So, just things like this is, it's dangerous foreign policy ideas that's being embraced and everything. And, I would say those were Donald Trump's not so fine moments as the presidency. Strangely enough, there was still less war under his administration. Of course, I would say that had a lot to do with he was a little different from the other Republicans, maybe less hawkish on foreign policy, but he had a lot of fighting within the establishment and fighting the resistance, the shit-lib Democrats. And I think that there was a lot of instability and infighting in the U.S. in Washington that accidentally caused a slightly less aggressive foreign policy, slightly less aggressive.
And he didn't want to take time away from his golf game to wage a war.
Yeah, I don't care why, but I'm glad it was slightly less aggressive. And I approve what he did with North Korea. He had positive relations. He was actually going somewhere with relations with North Korea. And it's not that I want Trump back in the White House, and I don't want Biden in there either. But I am willing to admit that if Trump comes back into the White House, the one area where I think he will do well, better than Biden, I would say, is negotiation between Ukraine and Russia. I actually think he will accomplish some progress there.
Yeah, we're voting for Comrade West, aren't we?
Yeah, Cornel West has my vote 100%. No matter what Bernie tells me.
Well, Bernie's good friend Joe hasn't done nothing for the working class.
Yeah. I've never
the railroad strike.
Never been so angry with Bernie as I have been this past week. And you know me. You can testify on my behalf about this. You can tell the people in my audience that I probably was the very first online Bernie bro.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was arguing. I was viciously arguing on Bernie's defense in the 1990s and early 2000s. And they weren't shit-lib corporate Democrats I was arguing with. And I might even have to show some of those people an apology at this point. But anyway.
Oh, I wouldn't worry about it too much. They were obnoxious.
Yeah.
They went out of their way to be obnoxious.
Well, that's true. Well, some of them I did make peace with. So, and some of them they're beyond help. So, but as I said, for him to have this hawkish policy on Russia, I mean, and what you told me about Nick Brana getting lectured by Bernie, who pays you. I mean, I could not believe that. I believe it.
Went up to Bernie, and Bernie said to him, "Who pays you?" I mean, for someone who was an activist himself, I mean, suppose when he was being arrested at the University of Chicago, someone said, "Who's paying you to do this?"
And I know Nick Brana's controversial, but he did work with Bernie very closely, for what I understand, and and the fact that he had a close working relationship with him, he really shouldn't have done that. And I mean, and for Bernie to attack Cornel West, I guess, I mean, after what Cornel West. I'm not saying that Bernie has to. Oh gosh, I'm sorry, that was my alarm. I'm not saying that Bernie has to endorse. I would rather for him endorse Cornel West, but he could have just kept quiet. In my opinion, he didn't really have to say anything, but to attack the left and to criticize Cornel West for doing this third party run. Same thing with some people. I used to admire Crystal Ball and I used to admire Kyle Kalinske, and to hear them do the same thing, and some of these others on the so-called independent media doing the same thing. Did
you see Doc West on Meet the Press?
I saw bits and pieces of it. Yeah, I saw a little bit of it. Yes.
5 questions, each one of them being, when are you going to drop out?
Yeah, and the thing about it is, I guess, Bernie has this thing about, I don't want to be the next Ralph Nader. And I know that Cornel West is thinking that himself. I could be written off as the next Ralph Nader. But, what the fuck has the Democrats done? I mean, I don't, and I get the lectures like, we made all this progress. There's been no progress. Bernie tried. He tried. I will give him that. He tried. I'm not going to be so harsh on him to say, well, the hell with him 100%. I think he meant well. He hit a brick wall. I'm a little more angry with the squad because they bended the knee themselves even quicker than Bernie did. And they actually have buckled down quicker and toe the line quicker.
The road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Right. And so, if you can't get Bernie and the squad involved with the anti-war movement, then we have to do this totally outside.
Yeah,
and
go ahead, please.
Even the Republicans who are nominally anti-war at the moment, that's because they're contrarian. A lot of them are contrarian. Wait till if Ron DeSantis comes back into, wins the presidency. And I'm not ruling that out, by the way. If he wins the presidency or some other, establishment Republican type, if it isn't Trump, if Trump is not in prison or what have you, and they start rattling their sabers for a war in the Middle East. Ukraine. And they're pretty much people going to be like some of those Republicans who are anti-war right now. Some of them, not all of them, they're going to start singing that Bush Cheney neocon warmongering war cry again.
What people don't seem to understand is the Ukrainians have lost so many men they can't continue the fight. There were, at the outbreak of the war, 32 million Ukrainians and 190 million Russians. Well, 7 million Ukrainians have fled with no intention of ever coming back. If we assume that half of them are men, that means 3.45 million men have fled. Now, the New York Times says that they've taken satellites and counted new graves, and they believe that 500,000 men are dead. Add to that 500,000 seriously wounded or missing in action, deserted, or surrendered. Ukraine just doesn't have enough troops to put in the field. You can give them all the weapons in the world. There's nobody there to pull the trigger. No fighting goes on.
Yeah.
I don't understand the people that are on the other side. It's like, oh, Ukraine just has to fight until it establishes its national sovereignty.
Well,
You have to be alive to be sovereign.
And nobody has any concerns about the ethnic cleansing going on against the Russian Ukrainians. They're being slaughtered in Donbass regions. I mean, there's no concern. No concern.
Yeah. Well, I said in my last column that the Azov Brigade and the other right-wing groups would use the cluster munitions.
Hello? I think we've frozen up here. We have frozen up. Hopefully Catty Ann will be back in a moment here. So until then, we'll see what happened. So anyway, as she's trying to get back on the screen to talk, as I said, there is the fact that there is ethnic cleansing going on against the Russians in the Donbass region. And okay, all right. I was just trying to fill in until you came back. Your screen froze for a moment, so
I probably lost the net. It's about to rain.
Oh, no, mine does that too. So don't feel bad.
There just aren't enough Ukrainians left to wage a war. And if, for the love of God, quite literally for the love of God, if you care about the Ukrainians at all, this has to stop now. Not sometime in the future or at some juncture yet to be chosen, there has to be a peace now.
Yes, there has to be. And, and I just don't understand why the unnecessary hawkishness toward Russia. I just don't I don't understand. I mean, prior to this conflict, the unnecessary vilification of Russia, it just boggles my mind.
Yeah, me too. A lot of people are living out feelings that they had toward the Soviet Union. There was recently a Republican congressman, and I don't remember which one, but he got up and gave a speech on why we have to fight communism in the Ukraine. He truly was not aware that Russia is no longer communist.
You want to know something? I've had a guest on my show. I've interviewed two people on this show that lives in Russia currently.
Mm-hmm.
One of them, everybody knows, Fiorella Isabel from Combo Cow. She's been
I
on.
I saw that interview.
Yeah, and the other one is Nikki, who does a stream on Twitch. She moved there earlier this year, and I interviewed her as well. And she told me her family gave her a lot of grief before she moved to Russia. I think that maybe her conservative family members basically, called her a communist, and some of her liberal family members call her a Trump supporter. Yeah, just for her, I said, "What? I guess you're now a MAGA communist or something." So, but
unfortunately, there are such things. But
huh?
Unfortunately, there are such people as MAGA communists, but
well,
between.
Yeah, I think I understand what they're trying to achieve. I think I know what they're trying to achieve. I'm just kind of agnostic on whether what I ultimately think would be the outcome. I think that there's nothing wrong with reaching out to Trump supporters. I want to reach out to everybody, and everything. But I to join in the Trump movement, I'm not sure that's the case. One thing I do
know, not joining the Trump movement, but for our demonstration on June 22nd, we've got to reach out to people we'd rather not be in business with.
I do understand. I do think that they do reject DeSantis and reject the establishment Republicans for the few I've talked to. I don't think that they're into, one of them, the Yankee Tanky referred to Ron DeSantis. He referred to him as the DeSantis deception. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, as a trans woman, DeSantis becoming president would be a nightmare for me.
Yeah, absolutely. He'll be a nightmare. I mean, not that Trump is great on the issue, but I don't think Trump passionately cares about that issue the way that DeSantis cares about it.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's like what our friend Dwight said, about the LGBTQ discrimination that was going on during the Trump administration. He says, he even though Dwight, is on the the resistance side, he acknowledged that it's not so much Trump that was causing that; it was more of a Mike Pence thing that was causing it. I was like, that's about right. So.
Well, as Trump himself said, Mike Pence would hang all the gays in the United States if he thought he could get away with it.
Yeah, and he was doing that to make fun of Pence.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the meme where they're both praying, and some of the simpletons that follow Trump are like, well, look at those two Christian men. They're just deeply devout. I'm like, I told one young lady, I was like, you expect me to believe that Donald Trump? You expect me to believe that Donald Trump is a born again?
The guy that doesn't know which end of the Bible is up.
Yeah. 2 Corinthians. I mean, come on.
Yep.
Yeah, just like, come on. I'm not knocking them down for this, but I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if we were to find out that Trump was, a closet atheist. I wouldn't be surprised.
But to be an atheist, one would have to think through a situation and come to a conclusion. I just don't think Trump has ever had any use for religion.
Yeah, I just don't think it really plays a role in his life. I don't think he cares one way or the other. I don't think it is a factor.
Yeah, I was going to say earlier, our friend, the late David McReynolds, he said that he thought the most tragic thing in the world was the way the United States battled communism. Well, being a third camp socialist, that never made a whole lot of sense to me because I didn't see communism as a good thing. And since David's died, I've come to understand what he means. The United States has staged these coups and invasions and takeovers and everything on fixed elections, everything under the sun that keeps communists from gaining power. My 5th grade teacher had this great line: "Tell me who your friends are and I'll tell you what you are." Who's America's friends?
Even my dad, who is a pretty conservative Republican, and definitely would fall under the category of staunch anti-communists, acknowledged that Ho Chi Minh, that the United States kind of fucked it up with Ho Chi Minh, because when they drove the French out of French Indochina and it became North and South Vietnam, that actually Ho Chi Minh wanted to establish diplomatic ties with the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And the United States basically told him to fuck off. And just think of the 55,000 Americans that could have been spared from that carnage of the Vietnam War. Just think of
in the Chinese.
Yep. And just think maybe even the Pol Pot situation could have been prevented. It's a whole lot of things that could have happened in a positive scale had Ho Chi Minh, had United States go ahead and have diplomatic ties. I actually would think he would be sort of a Tito-like figure for Southeast Asia.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't one of those people running around yelling "Ho ho Ho Chi Minh, the NLF is going to win." Ho Chi Minh was a Stalinist, but he was the kind of Stalinist that could have lived with the West.
So was Tito.
Mm-hmm. I was just
Tito.
getting there.
Yeah. I didn't mean to jump ahead. Yeah.
But instead, we had the war, which accomplished absolutely nothing. The United States now has trade relations, military relations, everything else with Vietnam. So the war accomplished absolutely nothing, as did the war in Afghanistan, the one currently being fought in Syria, the one being fought in Somalia, and the new one that's about to kick off in Niger.
Yes. And they're trying to, the U.S. is trying to bring on that war in Africa. I mean, what my understanding is, I have my criticisms of the Chinese government in many ways, but if they're helping with infrastructure and helping, trying to modernize the economies or whatever, and I compare that to how the U.S. and France and other Western countries have exploited Africa, am I going to blame these countries for allying themselves with China and Russia if they're giving them, if they're being positive in their relationship with them?
Yeah, the One Belt, One Road initiative by China is lifting a great many people out of poverty, which is the way to build solidarity with the rest of the world. It's not to bomb them.
Exactly.
As I've often said, nobody's family member is collateral damage. What happened to your Uncle Yusuf? Oh, he was collateral damage. No, you say the Americans murdered him.
Yeah, and you know, and if you criticize the U.S. too much about it, you're not criticizing every aspect of the United States, but you're criticizing horrible policies of the United States government that's actually harmed human beings across the world. And you know, and here's, you know, before anybody say, oh, there you go, blaming America first again, I would say, no, every country has committed some kind of atrocity or another. There's not anything so fucking special about the United States that they're immune from human right abuse. Every country has committed one form of human right abuse or another at some point. And, you know, to go with the lies of, well, the United States is just always nice all the time, and don't ever question what the United States do. I question what the United States do. I mean, you know, they may do some decent things occasionally, but there's a lot of things that they've done that runs contrary to human rights.
Well, going back to Sister Rosina's aphorism about tell me who your friends are and I'll tell you what you are. The Greek colonels, Sukarto, Strauser, the Brazilian military junta, the Argentine military junta, the Pinochet in Chile, Marcos Sr. in the Philippines, the Shah. Now, those were all choices. It wasn't like the choice was binary. But the United States always picked the most retrograde side to support.
Well, go ahead. Sorry.
There were several factions that could have been supported in Afghanistan, but the United States chose the Taliban.
Even with Iran, after the CIA toppled, Mohammed, and I can never pronounce his last name. Mossadegh. I know the name, I just never quite pronounce it. I never remember how to pronounce it. Mossadegh. And they put in the Shah. And I get some people telling me, well, everything was better under the Shah before the Ayatollah took over. Well,
no.
I have to tell people the Ayatollah was a firm, strong supporter of the Shah, especially in the early days, and preferred the Shah over Mossadegh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because Khomeini was a Iranian nationalist.
Yeah.
Whereas Mossadegh was an internationalist.
Yeah, I mean, I make an argument that things, may have been better under the Shah compared to the Ayatollah, but the Ayatollah was tied in more with the Shah than he was with Mossadegh. And the United States really should have left Iran alone at that time and allowed them to go on their course, I mean, how stupid is the United States if you're going to buy foreign oil to sit there and buy it from Saudi Arabia when you could buy it from Venezuela? Oh, but the human right abuse. Whatever human right abuse exists in Venezuela is minute compared to Saudi Arabia, in every fair metrics, every fair metrics. I mean, being a feminist will not get you executed in Venezuela. No. I don't know how positive they are on LGBTQ rights in Venezuela, but I even think if they're still old-fashioned and fuddy-duddy, they're probably still more progressive than Saudi Arabia killing LGBTQ, for example. Yeah. Leaving the Catholic faith in predominantly Catholic Venezuela will not get you executed. Whereas if you leave the Islamic faith, it'll get you executed in Saudi Arabia. And whatever the right-wing opposition, Venezuela due to the right-wing opposition, their treatment against the so-called their so-called mistreatment against the right-wing opposition is probably far kinder than the treatment against any opposition in Saudi Arabia.
And again, there's the United States with its friends, and its friends are the most retrograde dictators in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But what I really wanted to talk about today was I came up with an idea, and it's my idea, could be all wet, I don't know. But the United States wants territory back from Russia in the Ukraine. Well, the United States is sitting on a third of the land of Syria. Those lands can be exchanged. Ukraine could actually get back some territory because they're not going to win it back by force of arms. That ship sailed. And when I've raised that with people, there's just like crickets.
Mm-hmm.
Never any, well, no, that wouldn't be fair because we stole that part of Syria fair and square. Land for land. And I think the United States truly believes this. The United States should start off by showing it's serious by returning Guantanamo Bay to the Cubans.
Yeah, Guantanamo Bay should be shut down right now.
Prison should be shut down and the land turned back to the Cubans. It's ridiculous.
Absolutely.
To hold that against. Right now, it's very hard to take the Americans as not only honest brokers, but honest negotiators. Angela Merkel and Francois Hollande said that the West never negotiated with the Russians in Minsk I and Minsk II in good faith. They were always buying time to build up the Ukrainian army. If that's your modus operandi, why would anybody want to negotiate with you?
You know, the more I find out about how everything just kind of led to this situation after the Soviet Union in 1991, anybody who's willing to listen to how everything kind of unfold will realize that, you know, you're not being pro-Putin when you realize the truth about what's happened. You know, that the promises were made. West and East Germany reunited. That I think it was Bush and Baker basically promising the Russian Federation, once the Soviet Union ceases, that these former Eastern European countries, the Warsaw Pact countries, would not join NATO. That was kind of a promise. And little by little,
beyond Germany's border.
Yep, little by little, these countries started joining and surrounding the country. This was, I think, even before Putin became president of Russia. It was happening.
Oh yeah, this was negotiations between Bush Senior, James Baker, and Gorbachev and his top aides. Yeah, this was well before Putin came along.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and so this Putin's not really relevant into the picture at this point, and so even before he came into power, I mean, they were joining NATO already, and you know, and one could say Russia was probably more of a docile state at that time than it is today, you know. But you know, they really did feel like their borders were being surrounded. And all of that, and you know,
I really completely destroyed the Russian economy. Life expectancy was falling precipitously.
They didn't give up their healthcare. They did a lot of austerity, but they did not get rid of their healthcare system, which was a good thing.
Americans are the only ones who can live without healthcare.
And apparently, according to my friend Nikki, that if you get a job in Russia today, under Russian law, you're guaranteed every Russian's at the minimum is guaranteed 28 days of vacation each year by law. You don't even have that here in the United States. I think it seems like it's kind of like a Scandinavian style welfare state, maybe a slightly poorer version of it, but it sounds like it's kind of along those lines.
And that's thanks to Putin. Under Yeltsin, the country was going to hell. Putin came in, reined in the power of the oligarchs, and established something of a decent economy. And I'm always amazed when somebody says to me, well, Putin's a dictator. No, Putin was elected.
He was elected?
He has authoritarian tendencies. No doubt about that. But no, he was elected.
Our presidents have authoritarian tendencies too, Democrat and Republican alike.
And her last president wasn't elected.
And there's more than two parties in the Duma. What is America going to say about that? We're a uniparty. We're a two-party state, one-party state pretending to be a two-party state. And the cosmetic differences. Some of the cosmetic differences are meaningful differences, but when it comes down to bread and butter, and the economy, honestly, the difference between Democrats and Republicans, they're basically the party of Mitch McConnell. It's just you got the Mitch McConnell Republican Party, and then you got Democrat Mitch McConnell, Chuck Schumer. And he's basically Mitch McConnell, who's tolerant on a few social issues. That's the difference.
Yeah, that's why I think we desperately need a socialist party of America like the one that existed during the 1960s.
Yep.
Even the more conservative members were pro negotiated disarmament. A. Philip Randolph was an officer in Committee for Sane Nuclear Policy. And he was very much an anti-communist. Norman Thomas was president of SANE.
I would say that one of the reasons why America can't have nice things ultimately is that we don't have a viable socialist party or a labor party in this country. And the Democratic Party is supposed to be that party in some ways, but it is falling short. As I said to Joey McCurran a year ago when he was on this show, that the Democratic Party in a lot of ways is to the right of both the British Conservative Party and to the right of the German Christian Democratic Union.
When I first got involved with the Democratic Socialist Organizing Committee and we were trying to push the Democrats left, the party was, I guess you'd say, center left. And there was room for DSOC and its front groups to function within the party. Well, that's gone. The party's now center right. There's no room for a group like DSA to function. And the idea has changed. The last Democratic Socialists of America convention, the delegates passed a resolution saying it wasn't opportune to form a new party. But,
socialist majority within DSA. Kit Cabela mentioned that recently in like a couple of weeks ago in Harlan's.
Yeah, I saw that. Now, they used to say DSOC worked within the Democratic Party, but it wasn't to get Democrats elected. It was to realign the party and turn it into a labor party. Well, that isn't even a goal of DSA today.
Then what's the point to have a DSA if your point is not to turn the Democratic Party into a labor party? Because my years in DSA, theoretically, the reason I would join DSA, even though I was in another organization involved with independent political action, was just in case that there was some kind of success and something would happen. And some people say, well, that's actually happening right now. No. The Bernie movement not only had its fail, it's dead. I mean, the Bernie movement is dead. And again, I'm mad at Bernie. I'm not as mad at Bernie as some of the others. I have a little more empathy, but I have lost a lot of respect for Bernie recently for not putting up a fight. I've been very disappointed, and so I don't look at him in the same light like I used to. Maybe pre 2016 Bernie, I might still look at him the way I have been historically looking at him. But when he ran for president, in some ways, I think it might have been the worst thing he's done. In some ways,
I seriously wonder if the deep state doesn't take members of Congress into a room and shows them the Zapruder film where Kennedy gets his head blown off. See, if we could do that to the President of the United States in a major American city, all kinds of press and police all over the place, what do you think we could do to you?
In the movie Free Lunch Express, if you haven't seen it, I recommend it. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, you can rent it on Amazon. It's a movie that's a spoof on Bernie Sanders' life, and the Hillary Clinton actress is telling the Bernie Sanders actor when negotiating, and she's like, "You can name your price. Don't mess with me, Bernie." And she made her threat, and everything, and and it's so realistic when you see that scene. It's realistic, and it's just like, God, the person that played that role, Hillary Clinton role, she learned that role real well, because she's every bit as hateful as Hillary Clinton is in real life. I mean, well, I never met Hillary Clinton. I hope I never will.
I never will either.
Yeah,
I don't want to meet.
I did meet Bill. I did meet Bill Clinton in 1992. No. I thought it was kind of a big deal. I laugh about it now, 30 years later. But I don't know. I just think
that Barack Obama at the AFL-CIO convention.
See, I met Al Gore. I met Bill Clinton. I met Senator Bob Kerrey. I met John Edwards. None of them particularly impressive. So, no, none of them at all impressive. But the thing about it is, we got to pick up the pieces. And I'm thinking we need to focus on one thing. We need to focus on, as the American left needs to focus on ranked choice voting. We need to educate the people about ranked choice voting, to give them a choice, on election every year, every 2 years, and all of that. I need to take care of something real quick, but we'll wrap this up momentarily.
Okay.
But
in Cambridge, Massachusetts, they have the hair system, which is part of ranked choice voting. And
Maine and Alaska.
Yeah. You write the names of the candidates that you want elected in the order you want them elected.
Yeah.
So not only can your vote in ranked choice, usually your vote goes to your second choice. But in the hair system, it can go to your 17th choice. And people say, but it's so complicated. Irish peasants have done it for years. Really, it's not that complicated.
It's not that I remember it in the preceding organization you and I were a member of, how that worked. And it worked out pretty well. It worked pretty well. Ranked choice voting. And I hear it from well-meaning leftists that are working at the Democratic. Oh, we can do it later on. It's always we got to do that later on. You know, we don't have time to do this now. We got to do it during better times. When it's better times, there's no need to have ranked choice voting. And when there's better times, if the Democrats are creating better times, then it's okay. At that point, it's sort of okay. If the Democrats are actually listening to the message that Bernie Sanders supposedly believes in. Yeah. Then I'd be one of those people. It's like, this is, I wouldn't be like, I would be frown at people who were running third party, but I wouldn't be browbeating them, but, just kind of like, I mean, like in Canada, I kind of look at the Greens in Canada. It's like, you got the NDP. Why are you doing this? But at the same time, they do have a right to run, but I that would be the closest thing to where I'll feel like it's a little bit of responsible. But I'm being a partisan hack and favor the social democratic parties over the green parties, which the Democrats is neither green nor social democratic. But but anyway, I got to make a phone call very shortly. Right.
You got to think about.
Yeah.
Land. The United States has conquered for land that the Russians have conquered.
Yeah, and we have here on the chat line Sherry Weiss, who I work with at KRTD Media. I was with her at the Rage Against the War Machine protest. Real nicely. Let's see. Right. Yeah, I did my Rumble prep, or tried to anyway. People are so brainwashed that they can't see how bad this situation is. Very true. People also don't understand how much the media lies to us, and they continue to do so. All media. And as we have brought the former Soviet satellites into NATO, we have been screwing up their economies and societies. That's true. Putin is popular in Russia. And he is.
Approval.
Both parties brain dead, literally. Yes, they are. The U.S. has systematically destroyed socialist parties since at least Woodrow Wilson. Yep. He sure did.
Gene Debs was my age when he went to prison. Could you imagine the strength of character someone in their mid-60s would have to say, I'm going to speak out against that war, even if it means going to prison.
I'm not particularly keen on Robert Kennedy, but he is for abolishing the Espionage Act, which I'm in favor of abolishing the Espionage Act. How in the hell we could still have that around is beyond me. So,
one of John Adams' less than splendid moments.
So I guess I'll go and I'll talk to you real quick when I get off here. So let me just say my goodbyes to everybody.
Thanks for having me again.
Absolutely, and you feel free to come on back, of course.
I will.
If y'all like what you heard, please press like and comment any way you disagree with what I have to say. Feel free to share the content on this channel. As a First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it, because we are the muckrakers of our time. Subscribe to this channel here on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, and Rumble. Also, tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Bragglands, and I am going to put down the proper link on YouTube here. I had a previous link that was a bad link. This is the link we're using, and I'm going to type that in for everybody so everybody can see this link. This is the link to use, and I got to correct it in the other video description box. That's going to be Braggland. Okay, so it's YouTube Braggland Show. Our URL to use. Subscribe to this channel, so you'll be able to. everybody be able to watch the show tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It will also be streamed on the Willy Bragg Show here on YouTube, on my Twitch channel. It will be streamed on my other platforms and Jimmy's platforms. We're kind of doing that, so spreading it around. So it'll be part of the Willy Bragg Show, as it will be part of her program. It'll be part of as well, alongside with Braggland being a separate entity, if that makes any sense. So that's what we'll be doing tomorrow. So at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And everyone, always reject corporate media. And I'll keep that up there for everybody. And I'm going to go ahead and put it out the outro theme. And everybody, please come back. See you all later. Bye-bye.